you. I'm live right now with you, and I guess we are live.
When I first launched my coaching business, I was crippled by doubt. Tell me if any of this sounds familiar. You feel like you don't know what you're doing. You have this crazy dream. Not only do you kind of suspect it's crazy, everybody in your life thinks it's crazy too. I know that in my life, nobody got what I was trying to do. The people who did get it thought it was cuckoo bananas and would use words like irresponsible and you have a child now, what the heck are you doing? You have a mortgage to think about, etc. I literally had count them, two people in my life that kind of sort of got what I was doing. And they were both brand new friends that I had just made. I literally had no one, no family, no friends, nothing that got what I was attempting to do online. So if you're in this place, I want you to know that now, 7 years later, running a 7-figure business from that girl who had $300 in her bank account and had approximately 300 freakouts a day, I have now come to this place. And I want to share with you the exact frameworks I used to keep my head in the game and to make the right decisions. Because I will tell you this, the people who have longevity, the people who can sustain success and not have it just be a fluke or a flash in the pan are the people who have processes for managing self-doubt. So if you want my framework for managing self-doubt, I have never shared this publicly other than with paying clients. Put the word framework in the comment section below and we're going to get into it. All right. Thank you, Laura. Laura loves this shirt. I love this shirt also. It's so fun, isn't it? And it's like brand colors and everything. It's like I planned it or something. I didn't. Today, we're going to be talking about my self-doubt fighting framework. And if you would like an entire Google Doc where I have written it all out so that even if you're taking notes, and I highly recommend that you do, in fact, go right now, grab a piece of paper and a pen, grab a notebook, because I'm actually going to workshop it with you right here, right now, live on this live. Okay. So go grab a piece of paper and a pen. And if you want the actual Google Doc where all of my notes are in there, then comment framework in the comment section below. All right, cool. Now, I want you to understand where this all developed for me. And before I get into that, I would like those of you who are watching the replay, give me a big old hashtag replay. If you're watching live here, let me know in the comments that you're here so I can shout you out. If you have comments, or questions rather, I would love to hear what they are so that I can answer them. And I would like you to answer. We're all coaches around here, right? We all have our own methodologies and frameworks. What do you use to fight your own self-doubt? Or what do you use with clients to help them overcome their self-doubt? Tell me in the comment section below. So that way we can kind of help each other out and you might hold the key to somebody else's resistance, right? So let's do that. Okay. So let me give you a little backstory, right? When I first decided to go online, I was coming off of 2 years of maternity leave. I had just come off a failed business because I had decided I was really into baby wearing and attachment parenting and breastfeeding and this whole thing. And I thought I'm going to have a sling business because I'm so passionate about having, babies close. And I had gotten my dad to invest in getting the fabrics. I had gotten my family on board. I was telling everybody. I had a Facebook page. I was blogging about it. I was making videos, the whole nine. And it never really took off past the friends and family phase. And that was really hard because I even applied for a grant at some point, and the business institute, like the government institute that helped small businesses and whatnot, was like, yeah, no, we can't see the potential in this business. And I was so mad. I was like, you don't understand. Like, this is an international movement and people are getting into this, yada, yada. I was so upset. And I think I was just really crushed. My dream was not going to get the money behind it that it needed in order to go to the next level. So I had basically completely run through my savings. And then I had this idea of getting online and teaching people how to do their own PR because I'd been a journalist pretty much my whole life since I was 10 years old. And I'd worked in media and I'd basically seen every kind of terrible pitch that you could possibly imagine. I used to read, I used to get like 300 to 600 emails a day. And many of them were from professional PR companies that were charging people $10,000 a month on retainer. And then I was like, delete, 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 delete. Like, this is stupid. This is not difficult. Like, why do people not pitch me the way that I want to be pitched? And why do people not pitch me in a way that makes me excited to print something off and then run to my producer and be like, dude, we got to do a story on this, right? So I basically put that was my first ever attempt to be online, was Baby Got Booked, which is my PR only program. I don't sell it anymore. In fact, we've taken all the best parts of Baby Got Booked and put them in Impact with Influence, and then some. So anyway, all this to say, I wanted to create this PR program. And I mean, man, this idea freaked people out. Tell me if any of this sounds scary to you. Sounds familiar to you, sorry. Were you terrified out of your mind and all the people in your life were like, who's going to buy that? Which was everybody in my life. Everyone's like, people will really buy that? Are you sure? I'm not sure. And these same people, when I hit 6 figures 5 months later, were like, you're so lucky. You have such a sexy offer. And I was like, this is the same offer that you thought was stupid, right? This is the same offer. So if you're in that place where you're riddled by self-doubt, I got you. And today we're going to talk through my framework that helped me through this and that I use with clients to this day. And these are pieces of it. And obviously we have more support in the actual program. But if you're not in the program, or if you're trying to get in the program, you're thinking about getting in the program, this will give you a little taste of the goodies. Okay, so let's talk about how the very first piece. You have to think about risk versus capability, right? Risk versus capability. Now, the reason that we doubt typically is because we're terrified of failure, right? It's a risk that we're taking. Why are we terrified of failure? It's a risk that we're taking, and we fear being worse off than we were when we first started. It's like, maybe I'll get to my outcome, and the fear is maybe I'll get to my outcome, but it'll cost me so much it won't be worth it, or I'll never get to my outcome, and I will be worse off than I was when I started. This is horrible. And one core way that I build my own confidence in taking risks is asking, if I never get to this outcome, what else would make it worth taking this risk? Write that down in your notebook. What long-term capabilities am I building? Now, obviously, I have all of this written out in my frameworks doc. So if you want that frameworks doc, put the word framework down below in the comments. Now, I'll give you a concrete example of how I have used this, because the safety and security that we're seeking by trying to get to a revenue goal or even a significance goal, right? Like if you're like, for me, it's not about money. I really just want to help people. I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact. I want to change lives. That's a significance goal. It's ultimately about either an emotion or a sensation that we're seeking to feel. And I've written an entire book about my process about that. This is something I teach in Impact with Influence. So again, if you want to get a taste of our 5-figure investment program for $20, grab this book. It's called How to Live Your Vision, and you can get it on Amazon anywhere in the world. All right. We even have the audio version now available on audible.com, read by yours truly, with some outtakes and sort of little asides that aren't in the printed version. So if you're at all an audiobook person like I am, this would be really cool to get. But I talk about the specifics of how to really discern the emotion, the ultimate outcome that you're actually playing for, right? So the book is actually a great example of me using this framework, using this exact question in my own life when I had massive resistance. So I've been trying to write a book I've been wanting to write a book since I was 12 years old. I'm 41 as of this recording, okay? I couldn't. I have my entire life is littered with carcasses of manuscripts, fiction, nonfiction, short stories, full-length novel type stuff, you name it. I've attempted it and I have given up on it. And there are all these like story carcasses on computers that I have now given up where I have lost the manuscripts. Tell me if this sounds familiar, right? It was such a big deal. And the more time passed and the more failed attempts I had, the bigger the deal got. Because think about it. It's like, you're like, hey, I've been wanting to write a book since I was 12. Oh, you're in your 40s now and you wrote a book. Wow, it must, like, this is the one. And I was like, oh God, crushing, crippling performance anxiety, which is the opposite of creativity, right? It's the enemy of creativity. So I decided I was going to jujitsu my resistance. And I asked myself the exact question that I just asked you. If I never sold a single copy, so in my case, it was like, if I never did fill in the blank with whatever your outcome is, what capability am I looking to build over the next 20 years? That's the most important piece. Over the next 20 years, that's going to completely remove any flash in the pan, shiny object, squirrel type stuff that's distracting you, or that you're like, oh, everybody's getting on Clubhouse. I need to XYZ. I need to do that, right? The 20-year piece really kind of separates the platform, the shiny object, the tactic, the momentary thing from the actual long-term gain. It changes your lens completely. It did for me. So I was like, all right, if I never sold a single copy, that was my fill in the blank. If I never sold a single copy, what capability am I looking to build over the next 20 years? Now, I actually wrote out, I typed up what I journaled in answer to that question. So I'm going to read it to you. I would invite you, while I'm doing this, to write this yourself. I want you to write out, if you never did ... So fill in your own outcome. If you never got your coaching business to 7 figures, if you never helped another person, if you never actually released trauma for someone else, if you're a trauma coach, for example, what capability are you looking to build over the next 20 years? Here are some of the things that I answered. I want to build my ability to write truly life-changing books, right? So the writing piece, I was like, I'm a pretty strong writer. I like to think I'm really good at it, but I've never written a book. This is a whole new capability that I'm building. This is a whole new context for my work, and I don't yet have a voice in this context, so I'm interested in developing one. So that was kind of the idea. I want to write truly life-changing books. I want to deepen my relationship with Maria LC. So if you've seen, I have a co-author. So I wrote it with Maria. So I've written the book, but she kind of interviewed it out of me. She helped me, gave me feedback on it. We developed it together. We developed concepts together. We used the Impact with Influence framework that we help people use for developing their coaching programs. We actually use that as a framework for developing the book. So the book is almost like a curriculum in and of itself. So I wanted to develop my relationship with Maria because although we coached together, we didn't hang out in any other way outside of that. And I was like, oh, it would be so cool to get to know her in this other way. And I get to develop a team member's capability as well. She gets to have her name on this book. That creating opportunity for others is a huge driver for me. So this was me helping her publish her own book. Like her name is on the cover, same as mine. That was a really big deal for me. I wanted to build a team around this project so that we could bring our books to market in a smooth and effective way, which is what we did. So the first book was, holy hell, was it a learning experience? And we were like, fine, that's fine. We're going to learn it. We have a cartoonist, we have a publisher, we have an editor, we have Maria, we have me, we have Sarah, we have so many people involved in the creation of this book. That's how we're going to do 4 books per quarter. So I decided, instead of writing just a single book, 4 books per quarter, a book per quarter. Let me not just be completely cocoa bananas here. 4 is plenty per year, yes? Not 4 per quarter. 1 per quarter, 4 per year. So I'm already writing book number 2, which is The Power of Ponder. It's going to be out in about a month and a half. So that's going to be book 2. And then we have The Ponderisms Deck. That's book 3. So anyway, all this to say that I decided that instead of writing a singular book that had all of this pressure to be the one, I was just going to write a book, and then I was going to write another book, and I was going to write another book, and I was just going to commit to the practice of writing, the capability of writing books. Over 20 years, I'm going to get good. Like, I'm just gonna, you know what I'm saying? That much practice, you're just going to get good at this. So I don't know when exactly I'm going to be really brilliant, but it's coming. That's my way of looking at it. I wanted to leave my kids a legacy of my thought leadership in a concrete form that they could pass on. It's my sort of immortality plan, is to leave my essence in little bits and pieces that people can pick up if they want to. And I wanted to have my essence out in the world, growing our audience in a way that compounds over time. Think about it. I have 4 reasons per year to get on TV, 4 reasons per year to get booked for speaking engagements, 4 reasons per year for people to pick up my thought leadership, where maybe the first book didn't resonate with them, maybe the second book didn't resonate with them. I'll get them the third time. You know what I'm saying? That was kind of my thought process with this. All right. So tell me what your biggest aha is from this so far. And you've got the fill in the blank on the screen. Again, I've got it all in my framework document. So if you want that, just let me know. Now, the second piece, as you write out your biggest aha so far, I'm going to move on to the second piece, which is examine your stories and rescript them. So now in the Impact with Influence program, when we worked, if we were to work together, for example, you would be working one-on-one with our mindset coaches using hypnotherapy, NLP, EFT, all kinds of different modalities that are going to help you integrate your subconscious, which is 90% of you, and your conscious mind, which is about 10% of you, but it's the 10% that sets your direction and intention, right? The problem is most of us who are stuck, we live in this place where our subconscious and our conscious are locked in a tug of war. Now think about it. If 90% of you is pulling one direction and 10% of you is pulling in the other direction, which is going to win every single time? It's always your subconscious, right? So the whole purpose of our mindset coaching is to get your subconscious on board with your conscious intentions and decisions. So I'll give you an example of how we work with clients. So we had one of our clients who she has dropped lifelong patterns of we've had multiple clients drop lifelong patterns of self-sabotage using these methods. And we had a client who was a business coach. And this is Claire. And she was struggling with undercharging. I mean, you've got a screenshot up on the screen. You can look at it right here. I'll tell you the story though. She was struggling with undercharging. Now, this is somebody who was brilliant at helping other people make money, but she herself was really struggling to make money in her business. And she did this she did a session with David, our mindset coach, one of our mindset coaches, and had this huge revelation. This was a memory that she had buried, that she had not even thought about for 40 plus years, because it happened when she was very, very young, when she was 5 years old. And it was not even a big deal. It was just really not a big deal. Technically, if you had talked about it, you'd be like, that's not a thing. But she was 5 years old, and her mom had this little pot of coins that she kept. And Claire went there and she took one of the coins out. She stole a coin from her mom to basically go to the corner store and get some candy. I mean, she's a 5-year-old, okay? All she wanted was some candy. What she didn't know was that her mom had been saving those rare coins for years, since her own childhood. And so they were really, really precious to her, far beyond the significance of whatever the amount was, the dollar amount was. When Claire's mom found out, she burst into tears. So it's not even that she was mean to Claire or she traumatized Claire in some way. It was nothing like that. It's just that her mom was really stoic normally, and now she just kind of fell apart. Claire had never seen her mother cry before. And so it felt really traumatizing for her. It was a huge emotional impact to say, oh, when I take money and get what I want, bad things happen to the people I love, right? And it damages my relationships. And she had not even thought about this memory. It was not a conscious memory. She had not even thought about it for 40 years. But deep in hypnotherapy, it surfaced and she saw the pattern. And after this, we worked with her on this. The copy team used some of the story to help her develop some messaging. Next thing you know, her program is full. And in fact, she had to delay her launch date because there was so much demand. People were like, hey, I need to work with you. I need to work with you. I need to work with you. And she made more money within the 8 weeks of working with us than she had done for years prior in the whole year, because she no longer had the brakes on. She wasn't doing any of the behaviors that sabotaged her success. Does this make sense? So now, obviously, you may not be in a position to work with us right this second, although if you are, there will be a link soon on your screen where you can reach out and book a call and explore what working with us and getting this kind of deep support will do. You don't want to wait. Obviously, every month that you wait, it's money that you're not making. That compounds over time. So that's the cost of you not getting help also, right? But in the meantime, I'm going to give you a resource and a framework that you can use that will help you do this for yourself. And the good news about doing this for yourself as a coach, of course, is that if you learn a framework and learn to use it to help yourself release, you can use it with your clients as well. So I call this the PSA framework. Okay, and it doesn't stand for public service announcement. The P stands for pain or problem. So here's what I want you to do. Get your pencils and your paper and write out. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I want you to actually write out some stuckness, some pain, some problem that you're grappling with, that you have been working on, that feels really fraught to you. It could be an I always, I never, whatever that is. Write that down. I'm going to just talk you through it as we do this workshop together. Go, 2 minutes. All right, so you have written out what your problem or your pain is. Now, obviously, I've only given you a couple of minutes to do this, but when you do this by yourself after this workshop, when you have more time, you can take a whole hour to do this. I want you to really sit with it. I want you to not only write out what's happening in your mind, I want you to bring your body along for the ride. When you write out your problem, where do you feel it physically? So you're going to be digging into all of this, and I have all these instructions in that document, in the framework document. So if you want that document, just comment framework down below. Now, I'm going to move you to the next, the S of PSA. The S stands for story. All right. Story is the meaning that you're making of your stuckness. The fact that you're stuck, the fact that you can't seem to get enough clients, the fact that you're not making enough money, the fact that you haven't grown your coaching business, the fact that fill in the blank, that you don't have a lover, the fact that you haven't had kids, whatever it is that's bothering you, that really hurts, that is a ball and chain around your neck. What is the story behind it? What is the meaning that you're making of it? What is the story that you tell yourself, right? Tell me what that is. Write it down on your piece of paper. Write it down. What is the story you're telling yourself? I'm going to give you a minute or so to do it. Go ahead. Okay. All right. So this is the kind of story that where you're maybe saying, I'm not consistent. I don't know what I'm doing. I never. Those are often the stories that will surface when you examine them through this lens. Now, we're doing this in workshop where we're doing this very much front stage, which means we're using our conscious mind, right? And we're bringing awareness to something. I want you to make sure that you're asking yourself these same questions backstage, which means with your unconscious mind, which means you're going to leave these questions on Post-its around your workspace, your kitchen, your bathroom, somewhere where you're going to see these Post-its out of the corner of your eye, and you're going to be reminded of them. And then you're going to be like, oh, and you're going to be doing something else. That's the best part. You're going to be doing something else. So you're going to be pondering it actually backstage with your unconscious mind. You're going to get a completely different answer when you ponder it backstage than when you ponder it front stage. But what's going to be really cool about it is that when you think about it this way, you're going to start to see connections that were always there, but you never noticed before. You're going to filter conversations differently. You're going to notice things around you with a completely different eye. And that's what I want to have happen. All right, we're going to move on to the next piece of the framework, right? We covered P, which is the problem of the pain. So you're going to write out your problem of the pain. How many of you here have used the clarificator? This is a similar framework. This is just a different application. This is for self-doubt. So P stands for the problem of the pain, S stands for story, and the A stands for alternative story. So this is a different story. So what I don't want you to do is to negate some of the stories that you've been telling yourself, right? The story of, I never, I always, I'm terrible. I do all these terrible things, whatever it is, whatever story you've been carrying in your heart that's holding you back, We don't deny it. We don't have to force it. What I want you to do with the A is to look for an alternative. You're creating objectivity. You're giving yourself some perspective. You're saying, okay, that story might be true. Maybe I really do show up like that. Maybe I am all those things. But what else is true? What other factors are at play? And what other realities might be open to me if I'm willing to look for them? So I want you to write some alternative stories where it's either something that you can do that you've never done before. It's a different, take on a particular story. It's like, I'm not consistent. It's like, oh, I don't really know what to do, but there are many other areas in my life where the second I have a plan, I know exactly what to do. I always do it, right? Whatever that alternative story looks like, you can write that down. So go ahead and write that. I'm going to give you a minute. All right. So tell me what your experience was. Tell me in the comments, did you struggle with any of the pieces? Did you, do you care to share any of the things? If you write your P and just write kind of really quickly what your P was, what your S was, and what your A was. So if you can give anybody who's done this, those of you who are in mastery or in impact with influence, you've already done this before. If you care to share, that would be really powerful for the group so you can see how this framework works. Now, this is obviously just one of the frameworks that we use to help clients move through resistance, but restoring your stuckness, restoring your pain, restoring can be a really powerful tool. And of course, the way that you do it is going to be both front stage and backstage, which is a big piece of The Power of Ponder, which is my second book. Now, Mignon says she struggled. So tell me what happened. If you did struggle, tell me why you struggled. What specifically did you struggle with? That might help me walk you through this. While we talk about that, I just wanted to share with you sort of what happens when you get out of your own way. We had another client who shared this is a client who's currently in our program, and he had been struggling with that feeling of desperation and urgency, right? Like, how many of you can relate? We've all been through this at some point in our lives where we struggle with desperation, like when it feels like things are not working. Oh my God. And we like do all the things, especially as high achievers, like we do and do and do, and we try and try and try. And then we also have this like panic of, oh my God, I tried all these things and it hasn't worked right away. Like, help, right? So this is what was happening with him. And we realized, so he did he worked one-on-one with our mindset coach. And he realized that he has this pattern of running towards something and then having this like real neediness towards it. Be like, no, you must change. I need to fix things. So he had this real pattern of needing to fix things, needing to change things, moving, like pushing things, forcing things. And it's interesting because he's also a tennis player. So he was like not professional, but just, for recreation. And his tennis coach mentioned to him that one of the mistakes he makes with his strokes is that he runs too much towards the ball and he kind of anticipates the ball. And so he doesn't let the ball come to him. So he's not able to get that backswing. He's not able to harness his full power and the poetry of the motion. Instead, he's kind of stuck having to make it like this, right? So it's awkward. It uses more force and it doesn't generate the result that he's looking to generate. And it's more work on top of everything. So it really frustrated him. And he, after doing this session, which, he brought all his resistance to be fair, like often, and this happens with our clients, is sometimes they'll be like, no, but that's not true. Like I've tried that before and fill in the blank. And we're like, but we have tools, because we don't just work with your conscious mind where you're just talking through it, right? That's therapy. That's not very effective, because if you do that, that could take you 20 years to get there. But if we're talking, we're pondering, and we're moving you through stuff, both front stage with your conscious mind and backstage with your unconscious mind, and we're creating that safety, that integration, that unity, what ended up happening is the next time he went to play tennis, he saw it because his unconscious mind was now looking for it. We didn't have to convince him anymore. How powerful is this form of coaching, right? We don't have to convince somebody or beat them over the head with their truth that's so blindingly obvious to us, but they don't want to see. We just allow it to percolate. And what you can do when you start to ponder front stage and back is that your own subconscious becomes an ally to you. Instead of pulling in the opposite direction, now they're holding hands and they're moving in the same direction together. Now your conscious awareness and your subconscious awareness is both feeding your intention and the goal. Does that make sense? You're no longer, because what otherwise tends to happen is when you're in full flight or flight, when you're in that desperate place, you have two options. You have death and you have survival. And notice thrive is not on the table, right? So what tends to happen is we go towards, obviously we don't want death, so we go towards survival, right? And then survival is just survival. And we make short-term, sometimes self-sabotagey type decisions. We interpret things that people say a different way than they mean them. We panic, we react, we do all of these things. So if you're in that place, you're not going to make long-term good quality decisions that then fuel your confidence. What you're going to do is do reactive things that fuel your self-doubt. Do you see how that works? Which is why I want you to ask yourself these questions that I just outlined for you and use this framework, which, by the way, if you're coming on right now, I noticed some people just jumped on, put the word framework in the comments and I will send you, or I'll have someone on my team rather, send you a document that has all of it all written out. All right. Now, I want the last win that I want to share with you is one of our clients who had something similar where she was just, again, doing too much, efforting too much. And we got her to just lean back a little bit. She had a client who had kind of gone AWOL on her. So has this ever happened to you, right? You're a coach, you have a client that goes AWOL and had paid you the money, but just kind of disappeared, which doesn't really build your confidence as a coach, right? Why would someone pay you money and then not show up to do the work? Well, the client came back, and because we had taken our client out of fight or flight, and she was now really able to see holistically and globally what was going on, she was able to offer her client better options, better resources, and a better time frame. She reacted completely differently than how she would have normally done. And she ended up making more money because her client upgraded and stuck around. How cool is that? So she was just happy to help the client and she ended up making more money because when you learn how to really truly appreciate what is already there, you will get a lot more out of it. And that, yes, can sometimes mean money as well. Does that make sense? So if you'd like help, if you don't want to do this by yourself, because this is a very difficult process to DIY, I wish it were easier because then I would just have a freaking passive income course. I would put this all on the internet and have you guys do it. And I wouldn't have to spend any of my time and energy. But I actually believe that if you want healing at this depth, us doing it together, your healing helps heal me, my healing helps heal you. And that continuum, that circle is what helps us evolve as a species, as a collective consciousness. Now, I noticed, so Suzanne shared her P was, I'm not making enough money as a life coach. Her S is, I don't know what I'm doing. And her A is, I'm actually doing relatively well and I can figure out how to keep excelling. That's beautiful, right? So Suzanne, you can say, hey, I can figure out what is actually missing. This is where you start to peel the pear. You practice discernment. You practice discernment. There's a framework for that in this book where you're saying, okay, what specifically is working and that I enjoy and what is not really working for me that I can either delete, delegate, or automate. So those are the frameworks. Again, when you have better decision-making skills, then you can fall on your face and it's not a big deal because you realize, oh, I'm failing here. That's cool. This is hard. Awesome, which means other people are going to be struggling with this as well, which means this is a huge opportunity. I bust myself through stuckness. I basically have a money printing press because I can now bust other people through their stuckness. Laura says, it's difficult to get paying founding coaching clients. And then her story is, my work is too heavy. I believe Laura coaches with trauma. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the alternative story is, my ideal clients are too scared to go deeper and need initial support. You're absolutely right, Laura. And if we were to work together, the first thing that we would do is we would get into all of the deep stories, the S's that your clients are telling themselves, and we would create messaging that handles all of their objections ahead of time. Because then what you're doing, you're free messaging, the messaging that you're putting out to create those clients to attract those clients. Most people would teach you how to attract clients that were already ready. We're going to teach you how to create clients. We're going to move those clients along the continuum into that sweet spot of readiness where they're like, oh my God, Laura, you've already helped me so much. This is so powerful. I want to go all the way. And you've helped me see what's actually available to me because of this work. Show, don't tell. Does that make sense? Tell me what your biggest aha was from doing this workshop. And if you want the framework doc for free, again, I've never shared this with non-paying clients before, put your comment in the chat, in the comment section, say framework, and someone on my team will reach out to see if to get you the resource. Last question, Mignon said, she said, I was really struggling with the A part. And that's exactly right, Mignon. Now you know exactly why you're stuck. You have your problem and you have the meaning that you've made of your problem and you can't see an alternative. That's a fixed mindset as opposed to a growth mindset. Don't worry, a growth mindset is absolutely something that everybody has. You're built with a growth mindset. All humans this is factory installed. We tend to develop a fixed mindset as a result of trauma, as a result of programming, social pressure, bad family dynamics, all of that other stuff. But you're allowed to create alternatives. Here's the trick that I will give you if you, like Mignon, have been stuck with the A, right? So if you're stuck with an alternative and you're like, I can't think of an alternative story, what could this possibly be for me? Then ponder it backstage. Ask yourself, what other stories are available to me? Another trick to use is separate yourself. Be like, okay, if I were coaching a client and they gave me this problem, they say, this is my problem, this is the story I'm making of it, what would I tell them? What would I tell a child that I really love, that I want to grow and nurture? Those can be really great tricks to open up the A aspect. Does that make sense? I'm going to go look through the comments and I'm going to start typing in the comment section. So if you have questions, put them in the comments and I will see you all next Thursday.